My name is Ehsan Teimouri, and I would like to welcome everybody. I'm honored to be your host tonight, and I appreciate Mayday Committee and UNIFOR Local 111, Nathan, Carlos, and Gavin, for letting us to use Union Hall to celebrate the International Workers' Day together. We are really grateful for that. Tonight's celebration is in two parts. First 2 hours is for speeches and solidarity messages, and second part is going to be a music and dance, and I will be glad to see everyone participating. Our speakers for tonight are Rudolph Armstrong from Local 111 UNIFOR, Maziar Razi from Europe, and Susan Spratt from UNIFOR, and also Murtaza Malik from UNIFOR Local 114. Solidarity message from UNIFOR National President Jerry Dias and Ayanas from International Leagues of People's Struggle. And also the next one is going to be from Rebuild Koubani Committee, RSU. And our first speaker is going to be Ruth Armstrong from UNIFOR. She has been union member for over 23 years. Welcome. She was active with the hospital employee unions before joining CAW, now union in 2007. She was instrumental in re-establishing our local women's committee and sat as the chair for the committee for 3 years. She is now the local elected recording secretary and the only sister who holds an officer position. Over the years, Ruth has taken an active role in all levels of politics, volunteering her time for municipal, provincial, and federal elections. Her passion is promoting and fighting for women's rights and social justice.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here tonight. First of all, I would like to acknowledge and give thanks that we are on unceded territory of the Coast Salish, and happy International Workers' Day. It is celebrations like this that we need to take a moment and remember those that have fought for our rights. In Canada, for over a century now, we have recognized and celebrated the labor movement's achievements on International Workers' Day. I was asked to speak on solidarity. I am humbled, and I personally acknowledge that I'm not an expert in this area. My generation has not continued the fight. We've become complacent. In Canada, we have forgotten the struggle of our brothers and our sisters, and we don't look past our own backyards. We take for granted our rights for freedom of speech and our rights to protest. Yesterday, there was a march in Vancouver. The theme of the march was the fight for minimum wage. There were no arrests, no police brutality, because it is our fundamental right within our fundamental freedom in Canada. Jasfar Azimzadeh, who is the president of the Free Union of Workers of Iran and one of the coordinators of the 40,000 signature minimum pay campaign, was recently sentenced to a total of 6 years in prison. 5 years on the charge of gathering and collusion with intent to act against national security and to disturb public peace. He also received 1 year in prison on the charge of propaganda. He has been banned for 2 years from the membership of political parties and groups of activity on cyberspace and media on the charge of illegal activities. The reason why I mentioned, I'll just read on for a minute. So the Free Union of Workers of Iran released this statement. Jasfar has committed no crime. He was only fought diligently round the clock for the struggle to improve the condition of workers and curb the raids on workers' bare tables by the plunderers. Through such campaigns as the 40,000 signature petition and legal protests for a rise in minimum wage, He received the sentencing of 6 years within 13 days. So I bring this up when I say that we have become complacent in Canada, because we don't think twice about our safety when of ourselves or our families when we're rallying or we're protesting. When we're downtown, there's continuous protests and rallies at the art galleries or on the legislative steps, because these are the fundamental rights of freedom within our Charter of Rights. However, right now, the Harper government is fast-tracking Bill C-51. This means it is pushing the draft legislation through the process quickly at the expense of evidence and debate in order to make Bill C-51 law without even scrutiny. The Harper government can do this because of our unfair electoral system. A majority government in Canada is effectively a dictatorship which possesses the legal right to pass any law it chooses, regardless of the opposition, and no matter how detrimental it is to us. The provisions of Bill C-51 are so dreadful that everyone outside the government who understands the scope of Bill C-51 is terrified by it. CSIS was created to serve strictly as an intelligence gathering agency, but Bill C-51 will transform CSIS into a secret police force and will receive sweeping new powers through the incredibly vaguely worded Bill C-51. CSIS will be deployed in secret with a variety of ways, ranging from CSIS to be empowered to do things far past the scope of what the RCMP can do, and no Canadian will be able to defend against this. With the stroke of a pen, Canadians are about to lose our civil rights. If Bill C-51 becomes law, anyone who speaks out about anything other than the Harper government does, or displeases the Harper government in any way, may find themselves with their lives disrupted or destroyed and possibly facing 5 years in jail. When a government can move against its citizens in secret, without evidence, without oversight, the citizens have neither warning nor defense. There can be no civil rights. The Bill C-51 allows CSIS to take reasonable and proportionate measures it believes to be on reasonable grounds to constitute a threat to the security of Canada. This should concern us all. So what constitutes a threat to society? So many of us weren't born and raised here, generations. Our families came over here to Canada because of what Canada offered. The Charter of Rights, the freedom of speech, and that sort of thing. When I speak about solidarity and what's coming before us now, and I look at the brother in Iran who was jailed for a simple petition and speaking out against the atrocities of government and that sort of thing, here in Canada, we really have to look at that, because that sort of behavior is upon us, and we have to be in solidarity against this government that's in power right now. It is not just the solidarity of the workers, it is solidarity of the homeless, it's solidarity of the disabled, it's solidarity of our veterans, if we look at what this government is doing to our veterans. So solidarity is the union or agreement or feeling of action, especially among individuals with a common interest. Well, I think we all have a common interest when it comes to our basic rights, our human rights. The Conservative government is running the most secretive and least accountable government in Canadian history after running a platform of accountability. So once again, solidarity, we all need to bond together, we all need to educate ourselves, and we all need to be aware that we need to continue the fight. It's not just maintaining the status quo. Our rights are being chipped away from us daily by this government. So I'm just going to end on this quote by Chavez. It says, "History will judge societies and governments and their institutions, not by how big they are or however they serve the rich and the powerful, but how effectively they respond to the needs of the poor and the helpless." Thank you.
Now we are having Iris. He's going to have a solidarity message from International League of People Strugglers.
Militant greetings from the International League of People Struggles on this May Day. The The International League of People's Struggles is an international alliance of over 300 anti-imperialist mass organizations in 40 different countries. And here locally in Vancouver, we have member organizations such as the Alliance for People's Health, the Vancouver Renters Union, which is a new member and a new organization that I'm working on, the Canada-Philippines Solidarity for Human Rights, and Migrante as well, Migrante BC. I'm just going to share a few words with you, and then I'm going to share a couple of poems that I wrote. So I guess the thoughts that I wanted to share are that for me, I greet this May Day with a bit of a sense of reflection and urgency. I feel like our class is not organized, here in Canada anyways, that we're not actually resisting the increasing oppression and exploitation and repression from the capitalists, from the imperialists. So I guess I'm reflecting mostly on this May Day for about what I'm going to do in the next 364 days to increase the organization of the working class and the people to resist and to fight for a brighter world and a brighter future. For the past 10 years, I've been involved in doing organizing with the working class, but at the level of the community, not within workplaces. So I've worked with the Bus Riders Union, with the Vancouver Renters Union, with the Alliance for People's Health, to try to build working class organization and power within the community around issues like access to childcare, access to healthcare and transportation, and a vision of a world and a society where people's real needs are actually met. So I want to share a couple of poems that I wrote that came out of that work. So the first one is called Change Makers. And I just have them on my phone, so I apologize. I might have to squint to read them. Fussy toddler, trying to turn in his stroller as she searches through overripe fruit, battered vegetables, broken packages, and dented cans, hunting for deals on that shelf at the very back of the bylow. A young mother with mouths to feed on a check that runs dry 2 weeks into a 5-week month. In view of $1 million condos and grocery stores that sell $100 novelty watermelons. And I hear the whispering, turn this world upside down. On the bus, standing, packed in, straining for the least possible discomfort, faces grazed with worry, with lines of love and wisdom and celebration, faces weighted with worry and stress and indignation, coming and going and running and knowing that there is no real respite from the boss and the bills and the capitalist cures for all ills, TV and video games and alcohol and crack cocaine. At Hastings and Howe, crinkling bills, each one printed with our sweat and stress, line pockets in an air-conditioned boardroom. And at the back of the bus, I hear the muttering, turn this world upside down, man. And here's some poetry for you. I know a woman who lives on $175 a month after rent, who got a $175 fine because she couldn't afford the bus fare one day. And I can smell the injustice like the stench of a Lexus SUV as they pass laws to punish the poor for their poverty. And I hear her saying, turn this world upside down. I can hear it from around the corner, though I can't yet see them approaching. I can hear the sound of Nikes on pavement, of people singing, strollers rolling. The upside down turners are coming. Do I have time for one more?
You got 1 more.
I have 1 more minute? Okay, I think I can read it 1 minute.
1.5.
Okay. The second one comes from my work. So I work as a paid organizer for the Vancouver Area Network of Drug Users, which is a community organization that works with very poor, criminalized people who use drugs in the downtown east side. So this one is about police brutality and harassment. It's called Jackie R. Speaks. The police chief's letter reads like a boot on the neck, another bureaucratic fetter keeping us in check. Stay down, he says, in words full of politeness and all due respect. You are expendable, you are disposable, you are worth less than a piece of paper. What did you expect? $250 for jaywalking, bike riding without a bell, sidewalk sitting, vending your valuables, what you found in the alley, whatever will sell. A $250 ticket for insisting on existing while being poor. The room listens listlessly. People used to abuse. People shamefully unsheltered from the forces of history. A voice responds. It's not the voice of a wise crone or a prescient innocent, not a lawyer or a scholar or anyone wearing a white collar. They targeted us as a group. We have to fight back as a group. And in that moment, her voice is the voice of the people, more powerful than any poet, prophet, or professor. Forcibly, the chief's boot is lifted, our minds free from their chains, enemy illusions swept aside, though the danger still remains. And we are left with the possibility of victory, the challenge of solidarity, and together in this moment, our dignity. Happy International Women's Day.
World was watching when terrorists they were bombing, killing, destroying Kubanis. Their children, their hospital, their houses, everybody were watching. Even a superpower, a state, under the name of democracy, just they watched. They didn't do anything. All they were workers from working class families, but they killed them. But they fought back with solidarity. They fought back, they kicked them out, and they freed Kubani. Today, we have to help Kubani to rebuild. To rebuild the Kubani, they are from Kubani's committee, rebuild committee here, and also we have the box over there. Anyone they want to donate, anyone they want to help, we appreciate. And our next, from Kubani committee, Arzu is going to read the next, is it Farsi or
English?
Yeah, come on, please.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Arzu. It is an honor and a privilege to be able to address an audience like this. It is also an honor to be able to celebrate May Day with everybody here today, and to be able to show our solidarity for the working classes. May Day is not only the day of remembering and honoring the continuing struggle of the working class. It is the day where all political and economic demands of the working and lower classes should be here. It is a day of protest against the war and occupation, a day of protest against the government and the forms of terrorism, fascism, and racism, a day of protest against the death penalty and torture of political prisoners, a day of protest against any form of censorship, a day of protest against the drug traffic and sex trades, a day of protest against the destruction of the environment, a day of protest to demand political and economic rights of all the sections of the community. As you all know, we are here for another reason tonight, to help rebuilding Kubani and to support the family of the jailed activists working in Iran. If anyone would like to donate to this cause, please visit the table in the near the front door, and we appreciate all the help. Thank you and enjoy your evening.
Now we have a solidarity message from UNIFOR National President Jerry Dias.
May Day greetings from UNIFOR. Greetings. On this May Day 2015, UNIFOR and the global labor community stand in solidarity with labor activists in Iran who continue to suffer from repression. UNIFOR condemns the arrests of Ebrahim Madadi and Davoud Rezavi of the Tehran Bus Drivers Union and labor activist Mahmoud Salehi. These arrests are intended to suppress independent May Day events in Iran, which have been denied legal permits. As Iran attempts to negotiate fair terms for global economic and political relationships, we call on the international community to stand in solidarity with Iranian workers and trade unions. On behalf of UNIFOR, I send May Day greetings to our comrades in the Iranian labor and progressive movements. In friendship, Jerry Diaz, National President.
Today, with the globalization of economy and free trade union and capitalism, gap between poor and rich is growing fast. Therefore, working class more than ever needs to be united. Hand in hand, fight the capitalism system, the destroyed economy, kills jobs, damages our environment. Working class struggle and poverty is global too. Together, we can change this. We can change the situation with solidarity and unity. No one is going to change for us. I have a short poem for you, which I learned from my friend. Have you seen a raspberry falling from the tree? When it reaches the ground, shares its red color with the soil. But I've seen the worker falling from the height. When it reaches the ground, share his red blood with the soil. This is Farsi, but I translated to English. And now our next speaker is going to be Susan. Susan Scott. Susan is former national representative of UNIFOR who is now retired from job, but not from movement. She has been active in the peace movement, women's issue, First Nation solidarity, and environment. Human rights is something she has fought for all her life around the world. Canada and workplace. She is currently the chair of the UNIFOR retirees in the Lower Mainland. Thank you, comrade.
Thank you, comrade, and happy May Day. And I just very honored to speak to you tonight and to be invited to speak to you. I would like to recognize that we're on Key Cape Nation, and this is the Musqueam Coast Salish in this area, and we are honored to be here. There's lots of things happening in the world, and I think that one of the things that we are, as Ruth and other speakers have mentioned earlier, we're getting more isolated, we're getting more, the message is only coming from the Harper government, it's not coming any other way. And I wanted to share with you some of the things that has happened on International Workers' Day this last couple of days. So thousands of people marched in Indonesia and the Philippines, where workers live on less than $2 a day, to demand a higher minimum wage and a halt to contractualization, because contract workers do not have the same rights and benefits, however meager, as regular workers. And there were tens of thousands of them on the street. In South Korea, workers pledged to have a general strike if the government goes through with labor reform, which will be regressive and hurt the working class. Turkey is under a security shutdown as cops attempt to stop May Day demonstrations. Greek unions called for a 24-hour strike to protest the austerity demanded by international lenders. And Iranian workers held a demonstration in Tehran for improved working conditions. And in Montreal, where anti-austerity demonstrators were, they were tear-gassed and arrested. So, this is happening, these are just some of the examples of what's happening around the world. And we know that there were two May Day events in Vancouver. One was a labor May Day, and then the other one was anti-austerity in solidarity with the Black brothers and sisters in the United States of what happened in Baltimore. And just so that people know, that demonstration, not the peaceful one, but that one, people were tear-gassed. 3 people have been arrested and are sitting in jail in Vancouver, and I'm sure you didn't hear that on the news today. So I just wanted to share that. We have a lot of work to do in the working class. We have a lot of work to do with the conditions that we are being subjected to. So I would like to just talk a little bit about the legacy and lessons of May Day. So in Canada, May Day has been what I like to commonly refer to as a rebel workers' holiday. It was celebrated, as previously stated, in 1880 in International Women's Workers' Day, and women, has its root in historic struggles for workers' rights and collective action. In the latter half of the 19th century, the rise of industrialization, unregulated capital led to unprecedented inequality in North America. At the same time, however, political radicalism and trade unionism were on the rise amongst workers. These groups found common front in their demand for a shorter work week, and on May the 1st, 1886, workers took to the streets in thousands to demand an 8-hour day. In Chicago, 80,000 workers protested in the streets. Chaos ensued after a rally against police brutality attracted the attention of police. And when an anonymous provocateur threw a bomb into the police ranks, the police started shooting wildly, killing 8 or 9 of their own and 50 protesters. For many, this event, also known as the Haymarket Massacre, it dramatizes the struggle for justice faced by workers the world over. That event galvanized the labor movement to continue celebrating May the 1st as International Workers' Day. And in other parts of the world, it's a statutory holiday, but not in Canada or the United States. We actually celebrate Labor Day in September. But these two holidays represent two very different poles of the labor movement. May Day is really about the face of the labor movement, which is much more and has much more revolutionary potential. It's much more anti-capitalist in nature, as opposed to Labor Day, which is really more about the other side of the labor movement, the search to be respectable and to be included in capitalist society and to have a better standard of living. While both represent facets of the movement, unions and labor activists have tended to pull one way or the other, depending on the times. And I really believe that we could benefit from the revolutionary spirit that May Day was founded upon. It's time. The impetus that brought workers into the street in 1880s has really come back with a vengeance. In some ways, we've gone full circle, because even though the last century workers were able to establish unions, were able to get legislation that vastly improved working conditions for lots and lots of people, since the 1970s and 1980s, we've been turning the clock back. In reality, many people today don't actually enjoy the right to an 8-hour day or a 40-hour work week, and the leisure that comes with putting limits on working time, because they can't actually make a decent living only working those hours. While the nature of work has changed dramatically since the 19th century, the demands on workers has not. Some workers, such as farm laborers and domestic workers, continue to work 10 to 12 hours a day without benefiting from basic labor standards. However, for a growing number of Canadians working part-time and contract jobs, the demand for an 8-hour work week stems from underemployment. These precarious workers often cobble together a living by working 2 or 3 and sometimes 4 part-time jobs. They are denied the benefits and securities afforded to full-time workers and often lose parts of their wages to temp agency fees. It's like those bank places that you can go get your paycheck and they take 1/3 of it because you're desperate to pay your rent, and they get rich and you're still struggling to find another job to pay for that bank. However, these conditions are hitting workers more directly and deeply than others. We are all feeling the effects of more and more employers come to expect just-in-time labor at the lowest possible cost. With privatization and free trade, CETA, all of the other things that right-wing governments are doing to us, it is eroding our job security in both manufacturing and in the public sector. Even union members are not immune to these clawbacks. I think we get used to talking about it as if some workers are precarious and others are not. But I think that the other thing that parallels the 1880s is that while it's true there are some workers who are relatively more protected, all workers are becoming precarious. There's lots of work out there. There just aren't a lot of jobs. I think that's an important distinction. Employers want a lot of work done, but they don't want to pay for it. And they don't want to package that work in the form of jobs that will actually allow people to live decent lives. Canadians in their mid-40s and younger earn thousands of dollars less per year for full-time work compared to adult Canadians in the late 1970s, even though they devote many more years to post-secondary education. The picture painted here is grim, but there is hope. Another one of those lessons that can be gleaned from May Day is that the lives of all working people can be improved by broad-based movements. One good example of it is the campaign for an 8-hour day. Since 2006, May the 1st has been taken up as a day of protest for migrant injustice in the United States and Canada and for Indigenous rights. This is precisely the sort of inclusivity that the workers' holiday has always stood for. In the 1880s, there was more of a fluid sense of who was in the labor movement. If you were working class and you were engaged in struggle, you were part of the labor movement, whether you held a union card or not. With major protests set for the US and Canada, we might consider the fight for the $15 minimum wage as one modern day thing that a broad-based movement can do. In the United States, worker organizations are fighting Walmart and fast food chains to provide an example of labor organizing, although it takes place outside of traditional union structures. I mean, there's major demonstrations in the United States outside Walmarts, and please don't shop at Walmart. I just have to put that plug in, because you shop at Walmart, and first of all the clothing there comes from sweatshops. The Walmarts are the most richest people in the world, and they pay the least wages to people, and just don't go there. Anyway, it's one of my pet peeves. I just can't stand it. In the long run, if you don't organize people who are outside of the labor movement and lift their conditions up, the unionized sections of the working class is always going to have that enormous amount of pressure on them to reduce their wages or their working conditions. We need to create organizations that are radically inclusive, because the more people that are left out, not only are their lives and working conditions diminished, but they are part of that the dynamic of divide and conquer. On almost every other day of the year, pragmatism takes precedence over potential. Workers are concerned with making ends meet, and unions are confronted with cutbacks, privatization, anti-union legislation. But on May Day, workers take the opportunity to dream big. May Day represents the face of the labor movement that provides a deeper challenge to the power that capitalists have, not just over workers' lives, but over the whole society. It's about who has the power to decide how the majority of people in our society live and what lives and outcomes are going to be. I'm going to end by reading something that a good friend of mine posted on Facebook. Her name is Harsha, and she is very active in politics and in the East End of Vancouver. And she actually, I think, captures a lot of it. Solidarity with all of those who labor in factories, farms, sweatshops, in formal and informal economies, waged and unwaged and underwaged, all those indentured, all child and prison laborers, those who labor to defend and protect the land for future generations, those who labor to raise children, care for elders, and grow communities, towards a world where all labor is valued and is life-affirming and fosters interdependency and responsitivity. Happy May Day, and remember, Haymarket was a riot.
Canada and Iran are two of the top rich countries in the world. Working class are struggling in both. In Iran, they struggle and fight with poverty and Islamic regime for freedom. They get arrested and jailed. But here, there is freedom, but there is no jail. But there is poverty, working class, who are the main producer of the wealth and services. They struggle and can't feed their family with $10 and 25 cents per hour. They can't send their kids to school. I'm glad today BC Federation and other workers and unions are fighting for $15 per hour. We have to be united, fight and change this together with solidarity. The only way is to be organized with solidarity, hand in hand to fight, and socialism is the main answer. Our next speaker is going to be Murtaza Maliki, Executive Member at Large, Human Rights Visible Minority. Welcome, Murtaza.
Happy May Day. The 1st of May was International Labor Day. The day is a celebration of international labor movement and our unwavering commitment to ensuring better working condition and treatment of working people by their employer, and government. May 1st is a national holiday in more than 80 countries around the world. It's also celebrating unofficially in many other countries. For those of us here in Canada involved in the labor movement, May Day must also remain in time to remember that in every country of the world. Our brother and sister continue to struggle against capitalism and reactionary system. Let's take a few minutes and review the political situation and labor movement and current struggle around the world. This year, May Day came while the whole world, and in particular the special reactionary governments, are facing the major political crisis, especially during the last 3 decades since the establishment of the Islamic Republic. Every year, the workers' living condition getting worse and their living standard drop dramatically. While capitalism, through their brutal exploitations of the workers, continue to make huge amount of profit. While the workers are continuously getting poorer and poorer. This type of the deplorable workers' exploitations have been cost some workers their life. For example, building collapse in Bangladesh that lead 2,500 injuries and the death of 1,127 workers. We can never forget those brothers and sisters, or the ones from Greece, Middle East, Asia, Africa, Europe, South Africa, or here in North America. All kinds of injustice, sucking the blood of the working class peoples, all caused by the capitalism and reactionary system. It has been going for our decades. During these years, millions of the working class people were living in exile or refugee around the world, or dead. The expanding free market by capitalism reactionary system very bad impact in the working class life standard. The price of the goods continuously increasing and pushing the workers in very bad situation. In this situation, there are no other ways for the workers and other expectation, increasing the fight and the struggle and to lead this struggle to victory. On this day, I cannot help to think for our brother and sister and their families in Iran who not only suffering financially but are forced to endure all kinds of the injustice. I felt that it was necessary to inform the Labor Committee in order to act on these issues. Our committee should decide to campaign and raise money for the families of the workers who have been imprisoned by the Revolutionary Guard in Iran. I have the honor and privilege to speak about my involvement in engaging UNIFOR to assist the labor movement in Iran. I look forward to working with my colleagues to continue our mission of promoting community involvement and working class equality for all. Done with Islamic Republic regime of Iran, done with all oppressive and reactionary government around the world. Long live international worker solidarity. If I have a time, just very briefly. The human rights. The human rights crisis in Iran claims a victory, a victim every minute. Iran human rights trap and a nuclear deal. The laws are still standing. Prisons are worse than before. The right of the life is worthless. The concept of the juridical protecting is meaningless. Government agents have destroyed the privacy. Universities are controlled by political ideology. Freedom of expression, freedom after expression is null and void. Law that promote violence against women and children, restriction on the press, professional association, political parties, and civil society. These and many others violations are regular feature of current landscaping. As a result of the human rights, activists are trapped in the historical and perhaps even in the philosophical dilemma. Sanctions damaging people's livelihood and violate their human rights. Activists know that the majority of the Iranian people are suffering economically. For the human rights activists trapped in this unexpected historical dilemma. The biggest worry in that human rights violation will fade to the background and be last under the cover of the nuclear agreement with the world powers. The importance of the union and organizing unity in solidarity and fighting back against any fascist regime of Islamic government of Iran. In solidarity.
حالی رشد بی‌رویه سرمایه‌داری جهان از دسترنج کارگران و زحمتکشان، دستگیری و زندانی شکنجه پیشروان فعالین کارگری ایران و شرایط اسفبار فقر و بیکاری و فضای امنیتی رزم و همبستگی طبقاتی بیشتری می‌طلبد. از میراث با همبستگی انترناسیونالیستی. زنده باد اتحاد همبستگی جهانی طبقه کارگر، مستحکم و همبسته تر باد اتحاد کارگران معلمان، پرستاران، زنان، دانشجویان و مردم زحمتکش ایران. پیش به سوی مبارزه متحدانه و سراسری بر پایان دادن به ماشین سرکوب سرمایه‌داری جمهوری اسلامی. شعری براتون دارم از یغما گروبی که کارگران ایران برام فرستادن، تقدیم حضورتون میکنم. کبریت میکشد برای گیراندن آخرین نخ سیگار و گردادن پیراهن خیس بنزینش. با تمام حقوق‌های عقب افتاده‌اش در بنزین پالایشگاه کارگر آن بود کباب می شود و رانندگان خیابان مجاور تنها مسیرشان را عوض می کنند. اینجا کارگران مشغول مرگند. یغما گرویی. حال سخنران بعدیمون I'm sorry you can't understand what I'm talking about. You got to learn. Now you're talking فارسی. سخنران بعدیمون رفیق مازیار رازی از گرایش مارکسیست های انقلابی ایران. عنوان سخنرانی ایشون اول ماه می در ایران و ضرورت اتحاد عمل. Our next speaker is he's going to speak in both languages but mostly Persian or Iran. Welcome, Maziar.
Comrade Chair said I'll be speaking in Farsi, so I apologize in advance because you may get a bit bored while I talk in Farsi. However, I'm also representing the Iranian Workers' Solidarity Network, which has been over 2 decades defending the Iranian working class. We are based in Britain through the trade union movements and various progressive organizations. We have done a great deal in, against the repression in Iran, defending the workers, defending the women in Iran, etc. However, I just give you a resume of what I'm going to talk about in Farsi, you know what the discussion is about. Basically, I'll be talking about the May Day, which happened yesterday in Iran. And that is an important event because for 8 years we didn't have any May Day. Working class were suppressed in Iran, especially during the previous government, Ahmadinejad's government. And now the participation of some workers, it was organized by the workers' labor sort of house, so-called, which is linked to the regime. Some participated and organized by the government to come to that, and the reason for that is because they are making a deal behind the scene by the imperialist governments at the moment, and are very much linked to these negotiations, and obviously they're having a package deal. It's nuclear sort of relationship is just part of it, but the working class is, in fact, is an issue that they're debating because basically the imperialists want to, bring the sort of invest in Iran in future, and of course they want the security of capital in Iran. So therefore, this negotiations is going on, and the working class have to be channeled into some sort of control by ILO and also by the regime. So therefore, this May Day is going to be an important issue that I'll be talking. And also, we want to draw lessons already. Some workers, activists boycotted this participation of the workers yesterday, and also some participated conditionally. So this is the sort of lessons we want to discuss in Farsi with the audience who are Iranian. By the way, talking about Farsi, just for your interest, in the 1850s, Engels learned Farsi in order to do a research on Asiatic mode of production, which concentrated on Iran, in fact. So that would be an issue that maybe some of comrades in future can be encouraged to learn Farsi. Okay, thank you very much. رفقا دوستان گرامی، با تشکر از رفقایی که این جلسه رو سازماندهی کردن و خیلی خوشحالم که در کنار رفقا امروز هستم. به طور عمومی وقایع مهمی در ایران داره رخ میده. و این آتیه ما به عنوان پناهندگان و کسانی که خارج از ایران هستیم رو رقم میزنه در آتیه و مشخصاً آتیه طبقه کارگر در ایران و انقلاب رو در داخل ایران. بنابراین بقای دیروز اول ماه می بقای خیلی مهمی هستش که باید بررسی کنیم، با ذره‌بین بررسی کنیم و وظایف خودمون در خارج از کشور و مشخصاً وظایف پیشرو کارگری رو مورد بررسی قرار بدیم و همچنین تدارکات لازم رو برای انقلاب آتی ایران که به نظر من دورانش نه چندان دور هست رو تدارک بدیم. بنابراین امروز که صحبت میکنیم ما وارد یک مرحله نوینی داریم میشیم در داخل ایران و بررسی و تحقیق در مورد وضعیت کنونی و امر دخالتگری تو جنبش کارگری بسیار حائز اهمیت خواهد بود. اول در مورد بقای دیروز که یک سلسله اطلاعاتی از ایلنا اومده و متاسفانه چون ارتباطات تنگاتنگ وجود نداره با ایران، برخی صرفا همون بقای و همون اخباری که در روزنامه‌های ایران منعکس شده رو در جاهای مختلف منعکس میکنن. دیروز شنیدم در تظاهراتی که اول ماه می بود اینجا یکی از دوستان ایرانی که صحبت میکرد میگفت 20,000 نفر کارگر در تظاهرات دیروز شرکت کردن که این واقعیت نداره، چون شواهد عینی ارتباطاتی که به هر حال گرفته شده از چند روز پیش و امروز هم برای این جلسه بروز شد این هستش که رفقایی که در تظاهرات شرکت کردن نظرشون اینه که بین 3 یا 4 5 هزار نفر بیشتر شرکت نکردن و اینها هم واضحه که رژیم اینها رو با 700 800 تا اتوبوس به تهران آورد جلوی در واقع وزارت کار و یا جلوی مثلا خانه کارگر در واقع خانه کارگر پیاده کرد و پیش از این کارگرایی که داشتن می اومدن اینجا اطلاع داده بودن که تظاهرات در میدان آزادی خواهد بود و این رو به کارگرها اعلام کرده بودن که دوستا آشناهاشون هم ترغیب کنن که در این تظاهرات شرکت بکنن که اینها چنین کرده بودن. بنابراین یه عده‌ای از کارگران به طور مستقل که در تهران بودن به سوی میدان آزادی اومدن که شرکت کنن در این تظاهرات. در دقایق آخر به بحث اینکه این اتوبوس‌ها رسیدن به خانه کارگر اینها اعلام کردن که نه، تظاهرات در جای دیگه خواهد بود، در میدان فلسطین خواهد بود. بنابراین کل مسیر تظاهرات تغییر دادن در عرض چند دقیقه و خواستن به این ترتیب جلوگیری کنن از ورود کارگرانی که به طور مستقل می‌خواستن شرکت کنن و این تظاهرات واضحه که صورت گرفت و رفقایی که در این تظاهرات شرکت کردن بلافاصله فهمیدن که کجا هست، چون از میدان آزادی خبری نبود و اطلاعاتی که گرفتن از کارگرایی که اونجا بودن شرکت کردن. به طور عمومی تظاهراتی بود که شامل بسیاری از جوانان بود برای اولین بار. مسائل به اصطلاح این سپاه پاسداران و بسیجی و غیره کاملا غایب بودن برخلاف تظاهرات سال پیش 8 سال پیش و همچنین در شعارهایی که تحت کنترل خانه کارگر در واقع القا شده بود به شرکت کنندگان بعضی وقتی که کارگر از اتوبوس پیاده می شدن شعارهای خودشونو سر می دادن، یعنی شعار مثلا زندانیای سیاسی بخشی از شعارهای خانه کارگر نبود اما کارگران اینو ضمن اینکه در راهپیمایی بودن به طرف میدان فلسطین سر دادن. بنابراین یه مقدار یک حالت گریز از مرکز هم ایجاد شد حتی با وجود تمام کنترلی که رژیم برای این تظاهرات وارد کرده. علل این تظاهرات خب خیلی روشن هستش دیگه، اینم برمیگرده به انتخابات حسن روحانی و نه همین چند هفته پیش مذاکراتی که صورت گرفت. به نظر ما 3 علت اساسی هستش که رژیم تسلیم امپریالیسم شده و این واقعیت رو پذیرفته. یه دلیلی که خیلی مهم هستش این هست که این فشارها و تحریم‌های اقتصادی واضح تأثیر گذاشت در در درون رژیم و اینها در واقع دریافتن که به خصوص تحریم نفتی تاثیر بسیار عمیقی گذاشت و اینا کاملا مختل شد اقتصاد در اون دوران و پس از یک دوره‌ای تهدیدهای نظامی به دنبال اون اومد، به خصوص از طرف اسرائیل. خب سایه تحریم‌های نظامی به ویژه از طرف اسرائیل که چند بار این در واقع اقدامات نظامی رو علیه سوریه و عراق در پیش کرده، خب رژیم رو در یک حالت ناامنی نگه می داشت. بنابراین این هم یک فشار دیگه‌ای بود که بر رژیم وارد اومد و دلیل سوم هم این بود که رژیم متحدین بین‌المللی سابقش رو از دست داد. اگر رفقا یادشون باشه در 2003 و 2004 همین حسن روحانی داشت در واقع معاملاتی با امپریالیسم انجام میداد. منتها در اون زمان موقعیت خیلی قوی داشتن و دلیلی نداشت که چانه زنی رو ادامه ندن. منتها در یه شرایط کنونی رژیم اولا یکی از متحدین اصلی در منطقه رو از دست داد، رژیم اسد در سوریه که در شرف سقوط بود در واقع 1 سال پیش و امروز بسیار بسیار ضعیف شده و تمام سلاح‌های هسته‌ای و شیمیایی ازش گرفتن و الان در واقع وضعیت بسیار بسیار وخیمی به سر میبره. رژیم در سابق متکی بود به اسد که یک نیروی کاملا قوی در منطقه بود و تصور میکرد اگر امپریالیسم بهش حمله بکنه خب اسد رو حداقل در این منطقه داره و سوریه رو داره که رژیم رو بتونه نجات بده. منتها این از بین رفت، نه تنها از بین رفت که خود رژیم از طریق ارسال ارتش قدس و این فرماندهاش در واقع نجات داد اسد رو و کمک کرد به اینکه بقای اسد ادامه پیدا کنه. بنابراین وضع کاملا وارانه شد از اون موقعیتی که 10 سال پیش داشت و از همه مهمتر متحدین بین‌المللیش رو از دست داد. یکی از متحدین اصلی شاوز در ونزوئلا بود که این فوت کرد و اصولا رابطه ونزوئلا با ایران کاملا تغییر کرد و کشتی‌هایی در واقع ونزوئلا خواسته بود از ایران که براشون بسازه، قرار بود پول‌های این پرداخت بشه که پول این کشتی‌ها رو ندادن پس از مرگ شاوز و تراکتورسازی‌هایی در واقع خود رژیم در کاراکاس و غیره انجام و کارگرای ایرانی هم در واقع در ونزوئلا بودن برای دوره و الان هم هستن و این کنترل این تراکتورسازی‌ها و غیره رو این حکومت نوین در ونزوئلا از دست رژیم خارج کرد. به هر حال رابطه‌شون خیلی خیلی تیره شد و این رابطه رو کاملا از دست دادن و در سابق از طریق شاوز رژیم ایران با متحدین بین‌المللی هم ارتباطاتی گرفت، از جمله کوبا. و همونطور که میدونید کوبا از چند سال پیش تدارک به اصطلاح چرخش به سوی امپریالیسم رو گرفته، با اوباما رابطه ایجاد کرد که امروز دیگه رابطهشون داره حسنه میشه و فاصله‌اش رو با رژیم ایران گرفت. در نتیجه رژیم ایران در انزوای بسیار زیادی قرار گرفت و در قیاس با 10 سال پیش و از این لحاظ اینها به نظر من تصمیم گرفتن که این جام زهر رو بنوشن و تسلیم سیاست‌های امپریالیستی بشن و این چرخش در واقع مترادف شد با انتخابات حسن روحانی. حسن روحانی در واقع همونطور که میدونیم یک اصلاح طلب نبود، از خود اقتدارگرایان بود و این واسطه‌ای شد که کل جناح‌های رژیم و وحدت درش به وجود بیاره برای این چرخش و انتخابات حسن روحانی مترادف شد با این چرخش به سوی امپریالیسم و از 1 سال و نیم پیش تا حالا بعضی تصور میکنن که این معاملات صورت نگرفته یا اینکه به هم میخوره یا امضا نخواهند کرد یا مثلا فرض کن فرمانده‌های سپاه پاسدار ممکنه کودتا کنن و غیره، در صورتی که چنین نیستش. از 1 سال و نیم پیش این روابط تنگاتنگ ایجاد شد. رژیم ایران نقدم وارد اتحاد عمل در عراق و سوریه علیه داعش شده با امپریالیسم آمریکا و با ژنرالای آمریکایی اینو با هم تبانی کردن برای اینکه در واقع موقعیت امپریالیسم رو در منطقه تقویت کنن از طریق حملاتی که سازمان دادن به داعش و همچنین سرمایه‌دارهای غربی نقدم وارد ایران شدن یعنی اگر این معاملات پشت پرده صورت نمی گرفت، اینها به این سهولت و به این روانی وارد ایران نمی شده. امروز در خیابان‌های تهران قبلا فقط سرمایه‌دارای چینی و روسی می‌دیدیم، امروز سرمایه‌داری حتی آمریکایی، جنرال موتورز وارد ایران شد و پژو، سیتروئن از فرانسه وارد ایران شد و اینها در واقع نقدن اونجا هستن، نقدن در ایران هستن. یعنی معاملات پشت پرده 1 سال خورده پیش در واقع انجام شد. صرفاً این اتفاقی که داره میفته الان یا تا آخر جون که توافق نامه رو به اصطلاح بنویسن، فعلا میگن یک به اصطلاح فکت شیت نوشتن، تفاهم نامه نوشتن، اینا در واقع بازی با کلماته. این توافقات صورت گرفته نقدن و این سناریو اگر اجرا بشه، اگر روابط ایران با غرب حسنه بشه که تمام علائم نشون میده که محتمل ترین در واقع گرایش این هستش که این اتفاق بیفته، خب واضح از نقطه نظر ما باید ببینیم که این بازتاب این در ارتباط با جنبش کارگری میشه و این داستان اول ماه می در واقع بخشی از این توافقات است که تا اونجا که ما اطلاع داریم نماینده ILO 6-7 ماه پیش از طریق علی ربیعی وزیر کار دعوت شد به ایران و در این دوران در همین چند روز گذشته ما اطلاع داریم که نماینده های ILO در واقع نظارت داشتن به روی همین اول ماه می که صورت گرفت. بنابراین در دوره آتی ما شاهد تحولات نوینی خواهیم شد، یعنی شاهد این خواهیم بود که سرمایه‌دارهای غربی که 30 سال حالا 35 سال منتظرن که بیان چپاول کنن دوباره منابع ملی ایران رو سرازیر بکنن، سرمایه ها رو، و برای اینکه سرازیر بکنن امنیت سرمایه بسیار بسیار مهم خواهد بود و اینجا سر و کله ILO دوباره پیدا خواهد شد. ILO دفتر خودش رو تأسیس کرده بود در دوران خاتمی که شرایط مشابهی بود و امروز محققاً اونجا هستن و سر و کله‌شون پیدا خواهد شد و در آتی امکان این خیلی زیاد هست که سندیکاهای زرد تحت کنترل ILO و رژیم ایجاد بشه و این یک دوره جدیدی از تحمیق طبقه کارگر خواهد بود. یعنی امروز در واقع یک گرایش‌های رفرمیستی در جنبش کارگری بسیار بسیار زیاد شدن با بودجه‌های خیلی زیاد خود CIA، رادیو BBC، نمیدونم رادیوی صدای آمریکا و غیره، سرکله‌های افرادی مثل اوسالو پیدا شده که اینا مرتبط هستن، سالیداری سنترز در آمریکا، افرادی مانند کوهستانی و افرادی در داخل ایران دارن تدارک این دوره، این تحمیق دوره آتی رو میبینن که کاملا تحت کنترل قرار بدن طبقه کارگر. بنابراین در شرایط کنونی ما با این واقعیت روبرو هستیم که امروز چپ انقلابی، چپ مارکسیستی باید واقعا وارد یک اتحاد عمل مشخص در راستای تدارک انقلاب آتی بشه، چون برای اولین بار در این 36 سال گذشته در جامعه ما برای نخستین بار اگر این اتفاقات تحقق پیدا کنه، تضاد بین کار و سرمایه تحقق پیدا کرد. همین الان نقدن در همین 2-3 هفته گذشته ما 10 ها تظاهرات دیدیم. تا چند روز دیگه معلمان در واقع در اعتصاب عمومی خواهند رفت. بنابراین تحولات خیلی عجیبی داره رخ میده در داخل ایران به دلیل این تحولات و ما در واقع متاسفانه به دلیل انزوا از جنبش کارگری نقش مهمی نخواهیم داشت مگر اینکه این اتحاد عمل‌ها رو تقویت بکنیم، مگر اینکه در ارتباط با طبقه کارگر وارد فعالیت باشیم و مبارزه کنیم با این فرقه گرایی که حاکم شده و این فرقه گرایی هم صرفاً در خارج نیست، در داخل ایران هم این فرقه گرایی ما بین در واقع کمیته های مختلفی که شکل گرفته وجود داره و شما میتونید رجوع کنید به نامه حتی اخیر شاهرخ زمانی از زندان اوین که گوهردش که صحبت از این میکنه که این فرقه گرایی بسیار بسیار عمیقه تو جنبش کارگری و اگر ما این دوران که دوران کوتاهی خواهیم داشت در مقابل خودمون تدارک نبینیم و اتحاد عملها رو در درون جنبش کارگری تقویت نکنیم و در این تحولاتی که رخ میده شرکت نکنیم، واضحه که این بازی رو باختیم به همون لیبرال ها و همون اوسانلوها و همون جریاناتی که میان در واقع این بار سر طبقه کارگر رو میخوان با پنبه ببرن. بنابراین یه همچین وضعیتی ما در مقابل خود داریم. متاسفانه من وقت زیادی ندارم، رئیس جلسه میگه تموم کنم و امیدوارم در بحث‌های آتی بتونیم این مسائل رو ادامه بدیم. فردا در واقع یک بحث طولانی‌تری خواهیم داشت که رفقا اعلام میکنن جا و مکانشو و امیدواریم این بحث رو اونجا دنبال کنیم. از تمام رفقا اینجا دوستان دعوت میکنم در اون جلسه فردا هم شرکت کنم. با تشکر.
I'm here to express my solidarity with the workers in Iran, and before I speak I wanted to take my hat off for the brave 12 worker activists in jail who issued a statement under the gun of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Salute to you folks. And I also want to take my hat off again for the families of these jail workers. They and their wives, their partners, their kids, because they are so brave and they are going through a lot. But I wanted also to say a few words about May Day. May Day is actually the real Workers' Day. That's the International Workers' Day. The bourgeoisie in North America has managed to alter their own days called Labor Day. But in this day, we want to say that this word is upside down. Actually, we wanted to put it back the right way. Why should we, the workers who provide all the goods and services and make life happening, would be treated the way we are? This is not just. We got to change it, and we will. Thank you very much.
خیلی متشکرم. پایان بخش برنامه بود. امیدواریم که مورد پذیرش قرار گرفته باشه. Thanks everybody. This part of the program is finished, and we're going to have 15 minutes break, and then fun part. Music, dance, drink, and just enjoyment part is going to start. Thanks everybody.